My first book was all about helping me to build credibility as a speaker. My second book, my why was because I wanted to get more credibility, higher fees, more stages. So you need to figure out what is your why. Is it to make money? Is it to build credibility? Is it just to create a legacy piece? One of the beautiful things about doing that is that Amazon doesn't charge you anything to put your book up on Amazon. The second thing that I love about Amazon is that you don't have to buy any inventory if you don't want to.
Hey there, I'm Kaylin Wood, and this is Money Matters for Moms, the show where busy moms turn overwhelm into abundance. Each week we'll talk side hustles, saving hacks, wealth tips, and some energy tips to help make it all stick. Real tools for real financial freedom. No ramen required. Today I'm speaking with Kelly Falardeau. Kelly is a 10 times best-selling author and a keynote speaker. She's done 2 TEDx talks, and she's a coach who helps people write and publish their own books. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Kaylin. I'm excited to be here with you.
And I'm excited to talk to you. So you're in the book publishing business. Were you a bookworm when you were a kid?
Good question. I think I did like to read, but I never ever thought that I would be an author. I just thought that that was something so out of this world that, there's no way I thought I would ever be an author. But yeah, I did do some reading.
Well, so then how did you become an author?
Well, about 13 years ago is when I became a speaker. And I took a workshop called the Keynote Queen. And then I hired her to be my coach. And when I hired her to be my speaker coach, she said, okay, Kelly, now that you're speaking, you've got your topic, you need to write a book. And I was like, what? I don't know how to write a book. I'm thinking J.K. Rowling's and Stephen King that take years to write books. And I'm like, I don't know how to write a book. And she said, look, you need a book for 3 reasons. One is so that when people ask you to speak for free, you've got a product to sell. The second reason is so that when people hear you speak for 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever, and they want to know more about you, they've got a little piece of you they can take home. And then the third reason to have a book is because then you have that expert credibility that other speakers don't have. So that was how I got started, is I just started writing. I had no idea. I had no plan, no outline, no nothing. I just started writing.
So that was when you published your first book, but then how did you get into the book publishing business?
Well, what happened was that people started asking me to help them. And I was like, what? Like I didn't see myself as a coach. I hated the word coach. And people were phoning me, hey, can I take you for coffee and you can teach me how to write a book? And then, my best friend said, Kelly, like, you do know how to do this. You do know your stuff. You should be coaching people. And I was like, no, I don't know enough. I'm not a coach. I don't have any certification, any of that. And then what happened is when COVID hit, I, of course, lost all my keynote gigs because, there was no more in-person events. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm a single mom. I've got 3 teenagers living with me full time. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I laid on the couch for a week and yeah, laid in my, on the couch, and I was in my pity party and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I went and I took my last $500 and I spent it on groceries for the kids, because with COVID and we were locked in our houses, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do or what we're going to be able to do. So anyways, one day I'm laying on the couch and I said to myself, what am I going to do? I said, I guess I'm going to do that book thing. And so, but then I thought, well, who's going to pay? Right? Because I thought maybe people aren't going to be paying for things like that. And so I took a course from a marketing expert and he said, just do pay what you can. And I thought, okay, that's good. I could do that. And so I put it out on Facebook and I just said, okay, pay whatever you can. I don't care if it's $20, if it's $100, whatever it is. And I made like $1,000 in that one weekend just by saying, pay what you can. I know, that's what I thought too. $1,000? I'm not gonna get upset about that. And so that was the start of me starting to really get serious about coaching people to write their book and become best-selling authors.
And you just published your own book a few weeks ago. Can you tell us about that one?
Oh my God, this is so funny. And I know you've already laughed about it because you've seen it, but it's do you want to stay in your poopy diaper? And it's the question that my best friend asked me when I was going through my divorce. I had signed my divorce papers. I went home. I was crying my eyes out for 2 days. And I was like, why am I still crying? I wanted the divorce. I wanted out. And so I asked my best friend, why? Like, what's going on? And she said, do you want to stay in your poopy diaper? And I said, no. So she asked me a series of 6 questions, and that helped me transform my life. And so just a couple of weeks ago, we were in Mexico, me and my boyfriend. I kept telling him I wanted to write a book about that. And I wrote down the 6 questions that she asked me because I thought these are so important. And one day I wasn't feeling very good in Mexico. And so I got onto ChatGPT and I told her what I wanted to do, that I wanted to write a book about me and my best friend, and how she asked me this question, do you want to stay in your poopy diaper? And I put down the 6 questions and I said, write me a parable about it. And that's what it did. It wrote me an outline and I was like, this is good stuff. It even included the 6 questions in the parable. So that's what I did, wrote the parable, put it into a book template. Then I edited it and went through it and made sure it was, what I wanted to write about. And I had my designer do a cover for me and published it. And then it became a best-selling book.
That's great. So how long did it take you to write that book?
I'm going to say, I'm being generous by saying it took me less than 10 hours to write the book.
From start to finish.
From start to finish, putting it in a book template, then reading it. I read it a couple times to see if I liked it. I even sent it to my best friend to say, hey, this is, the book that AI helped me write about our story. What do you think? And the story isn't exactly how it happened, but the questions are there that she asked me. And I wanted to write a parable. I've never written a parable before. I wanted to see if AI could do it. And it did. And it even included conversations between us. So it was pretty cool.
So it took you less than 10 hours, but you have a lot of experience in writing and publishing. So how long does it take most people to write their first book?
Well, that depends on how much time they put into it and how ready they are. A lot of times people think they're ready to write the book, but they're not. And sometimes it'll take a year or two to write the book. And then there's other people, when they work with me, I help them come up with an outline and their ideas on what they want to write about, who's their market that you want to serve. Because that's the big thing. Who do you want to help, right? Like, Kaylin, you've got a certain target audience that you like to help. And so those are the people you look for. And so same with any of my clients, it's all about like, who do you want to help? And when you know who you want to help and what your message is, then it makes it easier to write a book. And so I say you can write a book in a day, or it can take you 3 months or 5 months or 6 months, however long it takes you to dedicate to doing that. But the beautiful thing is with ChatGPT and AI, it can help you write those books so much faster.
Once you have your idea for the book, what are the steps that you recommend people follow to write their book?
The first thing I always say is, what is your why? So why do you want to write a book? When I wrote my first book, my book was all about helping me to build credibility as a speaker. And so it was a memoir. So that was my why. My second book, my why was because I wanted to become a best-selling author, because I wanted to get more credibility, higher fees, more stages, all of that. So you need to figure out, what is your why? Why do you want to write a book? Is it to make money? Is it to build credibility? Is it just to create a legacy piece? Like my why for this book was just basically a legacy piece. It was just because I wanted to develop a new keynote message and I wanted to see if I could do it. So that's the first step, is figure out your why. The next step is to figure out what kind of book you want to write. So do you want to write a memoir, which is one of the hardest books to write? Because you got to relive your life, figure out what do you want to include. And so a lot of people find a memoir the hardest book. Do you want to write a self-help book, a how-to book? Kaylin, I know you do coaching. So a how-to book would be an excellent book for you to write, because you want to teach people how to be more financially free and how to love money and how to feel safe and secure. So a how-to book is an excellent, easy book to write. Maybe you want to do a compilation book. I love compilation books because that's where you get a group of authors together to all write on one subject. And what's cool about a compilation book is that you can charge money for it. So for those of you who want to increase your revenue or have an additional revenue, a compilation book is great. You can charge $1,000 to have authors on your books, and maybe you get 30 authors and there's $30,000, right? So that's a great way to bring revenue. The other good thing about a compilation book is that you have those people promoting the book for you. So it makes it a lot easier to get onto the bestseller list when you have so many people promoting the book. Maybe you want to write a children's book. I wrote a couple children's books this past year because I have a grandson now. And so I want children's books for him. But that is your next step, is to figure out what kind of book you want to write. The third step then, of course, is to develop your outline. And this is what I love about ChatGPT, is that you can go in there and say, I want to write a book about, and that's what I did. Do you want to stay in your poopy diaper? And here's the 6 questions that I want in the book. And it came up with an outline in about 2 minutes or less. And the outline had all the chapters. And so that was beautiful. And so then I was like, yeah, I like that chapter, or I don't like that chapter, or I want to reword this chapter. And then the next step is to get it to expand on each of those chapters. And so one of the prompts that I use is I say, expand on chapter 1 and make it up to 2,000 words. And sometimes, like my book that I wrote about called 31 Unique Ways to Monetize Your Book, I asked it to make it fun because I didn't want it to be so serious, because a lot of times things are so serious and then people don't want to read it, and it just makes it dry and dull and boring. And so I said to ChatGPT, make it fun. And so it has a whole sense of humor about it. Now, here's another little secret trick. So, Kaylin, sometimes when you use AI, you're just like, oh my gosh, this just sounds like AI wrote it. So I have a little trick that I do that works. And all I do is I put in there, rewrite this and make it sound like AI didn't write it. And it'll say, okay, I will write it and give it a more human touch. And it will be different. I know. I was just trying to be silly, and I thought maybe it'll do something, maybe it won't. I don't know. But I did that. I just put in there, make it sound like AI didn't write it. And then it turned it around. And it was so cool. So once you have it expanded and you've written all the chapters, then what you do is you take all that content and you put it into a book template. And that's one of the beautiful things that people love about working with me, is I give them the template. So they tell me what size they want their book to be. Is it a 4x7? Is it 5.5 by 8.5? Is it 6x9? I give them the template. They put all the content into that template, and it has exactly where the title page goes, where your ISBN number goes, where the table of contents goes. And then once it's in there, you want to format it again and make sure everything looks good. You want to create your table of contents. You want to edit your book, right? Because you don't always want to use the whole thing that ChatGPT gives you. So what you want to do is go through your book and edit it and make sure that it says what you want it to say. And then you can even have other friends read it and see what they think. Once you've done that and it's edited and it's formatted, of course you need a cover. So you can hire a designer on Fiverr, or when you work with me, I've got designers that I work with, or maybe you've got a friend who is a graphic designer and you can just go put it out on Facebook or social media and say, hey, I need a cover for my book. And once you have the cover made, now I love to do the cover in the beginning, because I believe you need to put the cover out there so that all your friends and family know that you're writing this book, because that'll get them excited about the book and they're going to want to buy it because they want to support you. Once you have your cover made, you have your manuscript made, then you can go into kdp.amazon.com and you can upload it into Amazon. And that is where you get your book published. One of the beautiful things about doing that is that Amazon doesn't charge you anything to put your book up on Amazon. And the second thing that I love about Amazon is that you don't have to buy any inventory if you don't want to. You can buy just one book, and it's the same price for one book as it is for 100 or 1,000.
Per unit, right? Per book.
Yeah, per book, right. And so once you've got it up on Amazon, you've got to start promoting it and selling it. I also believe too that if you're going to have a book, you should also be a speaker, because speaking is going to help you sell books. So It's going to help you get on stages, and it's going to help you sell your book. So that's what I've done with the Do You Want to Stay in Your Poopy Diaper book, is that it's now also going to be a keynote presentation, so that I'm going to be able to sell that presentation to event planners, and then people can also buy the book that way too.
Right. So
So
speaking
yeah,
helps you sell the books, and the books help you being a speaker.
exactly. That's exactly it.
That is not the only way that you can monetize books, correct?
That's right. And I wish I had it here, but I think I've sold them all. I wrote another book called The 31 Unique Ways to Monetize Your Book. And so what's really cool about that is it's also a workbook. And so I had ChatGPT help me write that book also on the ways to monetize your book. And then it also came up with some exercises. So it became not just a book, but it also became a workbook. I also had AI help me create an audio version of it. So it's a book, a workbook, and a course.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
You are very welcome. Thank you, Kaylin.
Thanks for tuning in to Money Matters for Moms. I hope today's episode left you inspired to take one little step forward. Check out the resources in the show notes and share this with another mom who's ready to thrive. You've got this, because abundance is easier than you might think.